Today we're going to be focusing on a pelvic floor practice. So the pelvic floor muscles are the muscles deep down in the pelvis. They're responsible for holding up all the organs in our body. They're also responsible for the way that we have rotation in our hips, which ultimately dictates how we walk, so the tracking of the legs. So a lot of times if we're experiencing knee pain, back pain, even neck and shoulder pain, that can be a result of a weakened pelvic floor or an imbalance in those pelvic floor muscles. So taking the time to stop and connect with these muscles can be really useful for pain management. It can help with things like incontinence or just simply feeling really ungrounded and anxious, which of course is something that probably a lot of us are feeling right now with everything that's going on with COVID-19 and being out of work or having to do school from home or whatever it is that's stressing you out involved with this situation. There's a lot coming at us in a lot of different directions. So taking the time to tune into these pelvic floor muscles can not only help to stabilize our bodies, but it can help to stabilize our minds as well. So it's a really, really important practice. It's very simple. We'll start by just laying on our backs. And the majority of this practice will be done this way. Okay? So just come down into a comfortable lying position. Have the knees bent, feet flat on the mat beneath you, about hip distance apart. We want the ankles stacked roughly beneath the knees, maybe a little further out than the knees, but only slightly. What we're really trying to avoid is having the feet so close into the pelvis that when we lift the hips, the knees come way out over the toes. That's just not very good for our knee joints. So having the ankles stacked right beneath the knees helps us to keep that alignment, and it keeps pressure out of the knees when we lift up. So maybe take a moment to experiment with that. Find the feet position that's going to be comfortable for you for when you do start lifting the hips. That'll come a little later on in the practice. So when you found that position for your feet, you might bring the hands onto the belly, close the eyes. Take some deep breaths into the space of the hands. Feel the rise and fall of the belly. Maybe you can even feel the low back expanding into the floor as you breathe in. Maybe you can sense the softening, the shrinking of the torso as you breathe out. This expansion of the belly happens as a result of the diaphragm lowering down and spreading wide into that low belly. So as you inhale, the diaphragm releases downward, expands out. As you exhale, that diaphragm relaxes upward back towards the rib cage, which softens and relaxes the belly. See if you can just tune into that movement. The diaphragm reaching down deep into the belly on the inhale. The diaphragm relaxing, softening back upward towards the rib cage as you breathe out. Imagine that you could anchor that mind in that movement. And once you've established that connection, move your mind a little deeper into the torso and down into the muscles of the pelvis or the pelvic floor. And just as the diaphragm moves with the inhale and the exhale, so do these pelvic floor muscles. And for that reason, sometimes it's referred to as the pelvic floor diaphragm. So as you breathe in, you might notice a widening or expanding of the pelvic floor muscles. As you exhale, you might notice a slight lifting or engagement of those muscles upward towards the navel. Just see if you can sense into that. And if this is challenging for you, just know that that's okay. It's really normal to have a hard time when you first start connecting with these muscles. So just do your best. There's a good chance we're creating some new neural pathways here. New mind-body connections. And that can be difficult at first, so just be patient. See if you can sense the widening, expanding of the pelvic floor muscles as you breathe in. The way they engage or lift slightly upward as you breathe out. And then when you feel like you've found that engagement on the exhale, you might actually start to help it. So as you breathe out, maybe you engage the vaginal muscles for women or the perineum for men. And just feel like you're lifting those muscles in and up towards the navel. As you breathe out, those muscles soften and relax. Just do that a few more times. Exhale, feel those muscles engage and lift. Inhale, feel them soften and relax or spread outward. As you continue to practice this, be mindful that you're keeping the jaw and the muscles of the face relaxed. It's really easy to take tension up into the face as you do this practice. So just see if you can be mindful of that. Maybe do it one more time. Exhaling to engage. And inhaling as you release. Take a few regular breaths, breathing deep down into those pelvic floor muscles. And then when you're ready again, on an exhale, we'll activate again either the vaginal muscles or the perineum. But this time we'll add the urethra. So the urethra is like we're trying to stop the flow of urine from coming out. So again, we exhale, engage vaginal muscles or perineum. Feel like you're lifting in and up the urethra. Just do your best. Then inhale, see if you can release the urethra and then the vaginal muscles or perineum. Just try that a few times. And if you're noticing that these two different muscle groups are releasing or engaging together, just know that it's okay. This idea of isolating, contracting one and then the other, and then releasing in that reverse order is more of something to work towards than something that I would expect you to actually achieve if this is the first time you're doing this kind of practice. So again, just be mindful of the fact that we're creating new body-mind connections, new neural pathways. On the next exhale, we'll add the pubis symphysis. So the pubis symphysis is the muscle that goes from the top of the pubic bone up towards the navel. And as you exhale, you might actually notice that when you engage that pubis symphysis, the pelvis tilts back towards you. So you might actually see that. I'm using my hands to maybe accentuate that movement a little bit. So I'm exhaling, engaging vaginal muscles, urethra, pubis symphysis, or the low belly muscles lift in and up, and the pelvis will kind of tilt back. And then as I inhale, I release low belly, urethra, vaginal muscles, and the pelvis comes back to its starting point. So I'll take my hands up so you can maybe see this in a different way. Again, I'm exhaling, engaging vaginal muscles, or perineum for men, lifting in and up the urethra, then adding that low belly, really drawing it in, feeling like I'm lifting my pubic bone up towards my navel. And then as I inhale, I release low belly, urethra, vaginal muscles, or again, perineum for men. So try that just a few more times. Exhaling to engage from the inner part of the pelvic floor all the way towards the front. Inhaling and releasing front, back to center. Sometimes for this pubis symphysis activation, it helps to imagine that you're zipping a zipper up that goes from the pubic bone towards the navel. And on the inhale, you're unzipping that zipper from navel back to pubis. So maybe try one more of these. Exhaling to engage. And inhaling to release. When you've completed that round, we'll just again take some deep breaths down into the front side of the pelvis. You might imagine that you're nourishing these new neural pathways that we're creating. And then when you're ready, we'll turn our attention to the back side, or the posterior pelvis. Then on an exhale, we'll start to engage first the glutes, then the circular anal sphincter, and then imagine that you could lift in and up the rectum, kind of like you're trying to stop the passing of gas. Then see if you can release first the rectum, then the circular anal sphincter, and last the glutes. We'll just keep practicing that. Again, it's okay if these things kind of all happen together, whether you're engaging everything together or everything's releasing all at once, or maybe both. That's very normal when you're starting this kind of practice, and it can take a while before you're really able to isolate these different muscle contractions. So just practice, do your best, and know that this work is really, really important to our bodies. So again, as we exhale, we're engaging glutes, anus, rectum. As we inhale, we're releasing rectum, anus, and glutes last. Try just a couple more rounds. Doing your best. Creating new neural pathways, new body-mind connections. When you've completed your last round, again, just return to some normal breathing. Relaxed and effortless with the breath. Bringing the breath down into the backside or posterior pelvis to nourish those new neural pathways that we're creating. And then when you're ready, we'll release the hands down at our sides. If you have a yoga block nearby and you'd like to use it, you could place it in between the thighs. Now, you don't have to do that. It can just be a nice way of helping to get these muscles to start to engage. But again, it's not necessary. So when you're ready, really anchor down through the feet. Make sure that you're keeping even weight distribution through the feet throughout this practice. So again, that means we're not bringing all of the weight back into the heels. And we want to really keep that even weight distribution. And on an inhale, we'll lift the hips up towards the sky. On an exhale, we'll start to engage from posterior or backside pelvic floor to anterior or the most front side of the pelvis. So as you breathe out, start to engage glutes, anus, rectum, vaginal muscles or perineum. Lift in and up the urethra, engage that zipper in the low belly. Feel like you're squeezing everything towards the center of the pelvis. And then on an inhale, release low belly, urethra, vaginal muscles or perineum, rectum, anus, and glutes release as the hips find the floor. So let's do that 3 more times. Inhale to lift. Exhale, engage glutes, anus, rectum, vaginal muscles or perineum, urethra, low belly, squeeze everything to the middle. And then as you inhale and slowly lower the hips, we'll release low belly, urethra, vaginal muscles or perineum, rectum, anus, glutes come last. So we've got 2 more of these. Again, if things are releasing or contracting all at once, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing. When you're ready, big inhale, float the hips up. Exhale, engage from back side of the pelvis all the way towards the front. Inhale, release, low belly, all the way back to the glutes as the hips lower down. 1 more. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, engage glutes, anus, rectum, vaginal muscles or perineum, urethra, low belly, squeeze everything towards the center of the pelvis. And then as you breathe in, release low belly, urethra, vaginal muscles or perineum, rectum, anus, and last the glutes. Relax here. Take some deep breaths into the pelvis. Nourishing those new neural pathways that we're creating. Take 1 more deep breath, really filling it 360 degrees around the pelvis, all the way to the base, front to back, side to side. Then for this last round, we'll inhale, lift the hips up, and then we'll keep the hips up as we contract and release 3 times. So keeping the hips up, engage glutes, anus, rectum, vaginal muscles or perineum, urethra, low belly. Then keep the hips up as you release low belly, urethra, vaginal muscles or perineum, rectum, anus, glutes. Keep the hips high and do that 2 more times. Exhale, engage posterior or back side of the pelvis, all the way towards the anterior or front side of the pelvis. Then inhale, release, front to back, keeping the hips up. 1 more time. Exhale, engage glutes, anus, rectum, vaginal muscles or perineum, urethra, low belly. Hold it here. You can keep breathing and keep squeezing together. Take a few deep breaths as you squeeze everything in towards the midline. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As you inhale, release. Low belly, urethra, vaginal muscles or perineum, rectum, anus, glutes as the hips come down. Take a deep breath. Filling the pelvis 360 degrees around with the inhale. Nourishing those new neural pathways. When that feels complete, let's just hug the knees in towards the chest for a moment. We'll rock side to side. And when that feels complete, we'll stretch the legs out. Relax the backs of the hands out at the sides with palms facing up. We'll just settle in for a brief Shavasana. Now you might be wondering why we're doing Shavasana right now. We didn't even really do a yoga practice, even though we did. But the importance of coming into Shavasana is that we're returning to anatomical alignment. So all of these different muscles that we just worked with now have the opportunity to rest and reintegrate in anatomical alignment, or in the position that we would normally be in if we were standing, relatively. So you might relax the pinky toe edges of the feet outward. Relax the backs of the hands out at the sides with palms facing up. Of course, if we were standing, it might look a little different. Our feet would be more flexed. Our toes might be parallel to each other, or I guess I should say the feet would be more parallel, and maybe the hands would be at our sides. But this isn't very relaxed. So this is more of a relaxed anatomical position that we're coming to. But settling in here gives the body an opportunity to start to integrate all of these new neural pathways into its long-term memory. So with each breath, imagine that you're helping with that process. Inhaling to nourish and enliven these neural pathways. Exhaling to seal them in, or seed them into the body and mind. Go ahead and fill the breath out to the fingertips, down to the toes, and start to wiggle them awake. And as you're ready, maybe you'd like to stretch the hands overhead, interlace the fingers, press the palms away from you and towards the top of the yoga mat as you press the heels away from you towards the back of the mat. Just take a big breath up through the soles of the feet all the way to the palms. And breathe down from the palms and back out through the soles of the feet. Maybe do that once more. And then from here, we'll maybe hug the knees back in. And find a seat. When you found that seat, we'll sit up tall in the spine. Float the roof of the mouth over the heart. Close the eyes. Bring the mind down to the center of the pelvis, or what we call the root in yoga. And as you breathe out, just one more time, start to engage all of those pelvic floor muscles. Just engage them all at once. Imagine that you're really squeezing them towards the center of the pelvis. And then release that contraction, but hold the awareness there at that pelvic center. And maybe imagine that you're holding that engagement at about 10%. So this is more of an engagement with the mind than it is with the body. And for a moment, just imagine that you could anchor the mind into the pelvis. Anchor the mind in the root. And the root can anchor your mind. So you might imagine that you're hooking the mind down into that pelvic center. And an iron cord connects between that pelvis and the center of the mind. Holding body and mind steady and still. You can rest here in this quiet space for as long as you'd like. Holding your mind at the root. Anchoring the awareness into that still, steady center. Thank you for watching. Namaste.